You are live. Hey, good evening, everybody. You are back with the crew. Big Tuesday night for our educational Tuesday nights with IBC. We have two of my good friends here. We have Mr. Simon, the other half of this entire beautiful show, and Mr. Scott Chapman. As you guys remember, I think he was on the show. What? Hello, we're back live. Hopefully this works. It says we're live. All right, guys. Sorry about the mix-up there. So, as Simon was saying, we're having an incredible time down here. We've learned so much. Incredible, gracious people, as we all know about our lovely country. The South is so hospitable. We enjoyed ourselves immensely. I'm watching the delay over here, and I shouldn't be doing that. Guys, we're going to read all your chats and all your questions. We just want to really kind of go over what we've learned over the last couple of days, who we met, and some great friends that we met. Speaking of, we have Mr. Scott Chapman here, who was on the show, 2-3 weeks? I'd say 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was. Scott, how you doing tonight, sir?
Man, I am doing great. I don't know much any way I could be doing any better than being here with you guys.
No, right? That's good fun. We had some barbecue last night. We're down here in the South having some barbecue. We had some jambalaya today, so it's been a good day. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask either one of you. I'm going to ask actually Simon. Simon, what was the big takeaway from yesterday? Yesterday alone.
Big takeaway from yesterday. Okay, so yesterday we had the real honor of going to Nelson Nash's home, mostly remodeled. it was passed along to David Stern and Nelson Nash's daughter, Kim Stern. And they were very gracious to let us into their home, and we chatted with David. We were there for about four hours. Yeah, about 4 hours we were there, and he gave us a tour of the home and the history of the home, the fireplace, the ongoings in the home. We saw great memorabilia, Nelson Nash memorabilia, that piece of paper, I would say, best freshman.
Freshman,
Something like that. But and we all thought it was his like high school or college, and that was from the insurance company that he was working at. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
now that's what I'm talking about. Where does that kind of celebratory stuff go? That's not around anymore. So that was really cool. But what I really got from yesterday was and still is David Stern's commitment to Nelson Nash's infinite banking concept.
Yes.
And Mr. Chapman, he identifies himself as a Nelson Nash IBC purist, if you will, right?
Yes.
And I really understood why you identify as that, because what David explained to us in so many different ways, it was very relevant through how just David explained things that I'm sure we're going to get into later. But that's what I got, and so I can only imagine what it must have been like for you, Scott, to be at these seminars and get that every time, and it just re-establishes your belief in what you're seeing, and what you have learned in the IBC process. It just validates it, validates it, validates. So this was very validating to me. That was the big takeaway that I got. Everything was validated right then and there. And I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
So that was my big takeaway from yesterday, Allan. How about yours? What was your big takeaway?
Same. The validation of none of us really know, we just see each other on YouTube or in the chats and we talk, and you don't really get a sense of being always until you're there. And the commitment to Dave being what I would say a ex-military man, so it's very matter of fact and very not just the way he studies things. You can tell his mind is always thinking about how let's get this right so we don't have to fix it down the road. Let's make this thing right.
Right.
His diligence towards keeping this as pure and as honest as possible. And then him sharing some of the stories about some of the people that have, let's say, left the reservation, started off with great intent, and then they end up doing people wrong and turning people into money machines, cash cows, and we all know where the world is today. So it was so fresh to hear people not just like Scott, but our buddy JV, who couldn't make it tonight, tell us always, well, this is what I'm doing, this is the way I do it. This is what I'm doing, this is the way I do it. And all of it just completely lined up with everything I was hoping to find when I got here, instead of, people pushing contracts in front of you and saying, well, I need you to sign this before we can talk about anything else.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
None of that.
We didn't talk numbers, business, a little bit right at the very end. It was all about creating a friendship, a team, a responsibility to each other, and honesty, and look a man in the eye and shake his hand and just tell him what you believe you're going to do. And just think, Simon, about having your father and father-in-law's legacy, and then allowing these crypto fools drive out, fly all the way across the country and invite them in your home.
Yeah.
That just told me right there that it worked. It was just so beautiful.
Well, you know what? That was a huge step on their part.
Oh, yeah.
We got a a short condensed version,
Mhm.
probably sugar coated at best of things that have taken place within the IBC community. And it was bleed over of the cryptocurrency space, not the space itself, but individuals. Like we all know in crypto space, there's always the boogeyman around the corner, always someone trying to sell you a shiny box of
Yeah.
you know, and I think that was very, very, very huge, very, very huge. You know, you know, we got to thank Scott for putting that all together. Like he's the one that was able to finalize everything to be able to, you know, get us down here.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
incredible.
it was incredible. I thought that
And
was.
I do appreciate all your hard work and that, Scott,
Hey,
putting it
good.
all together.
And also shout out to Jared Vick.
Jared.
You're the man. Without you,
None of this,
none of this would have happened.
right.
Zero. None of it would have happened. So thank you, Jared.
And that's really what people, the longer you're around myself, and I believe this to be true of everybody I deal with, but you'll know that like I'm dedicated to JP. Like he's the first guy, he brought me here, get it, I understand it. That's really what I want to promote because it's kind of an old school way of doing business and I really enjoy it. My big takeaway from today, Simon, I probably did an hour and a half of interviews today with that kind couple that were just amazing to let us in their home. The thing that got me today was when Kim said to us, this is the first real interview in our home since he had passed, since they did a documentary.
Yeah.
And I was standing there like, I am not worthy of that state. What am I doing here? I just thought to myself, wow, everything lined up perfectly for us to, and again, a magical time. I just can't believe I was there to hear that. So pretty impressive. And I owe this man right here, Scott, big favor for that. But also yesterday, I have to say this. Yesterday, I met a man that Justin, amazing man that probably knew him as well as anybody who's still in the business, is what I got from it, who sells the policies and whatnot. And the commitment to him to be as connected to, he has this very successful brokerage and he's still willing to have two guys fly across the country and walk in his space. And he is, I can't even imagine what he is per hour. But give it an hour or at least an hour of his day to us that he doesn't know us from Adam. And we walk in there and he just crushed an interview that you'll see with myself and Simon and Justin, who's just like amazing what happened that day. We haven't really done many interviews with JV and I really kind of feel like we dropped the ball. I don't know why we didn't do more of that, but we have Scott here tonight. So Scott, let me ask you, why did all the planets line up for Simon and I, or is this just something you do all the time, or you just had a feeling that maybe this was going to work out well? What did you get?
Well, when Jared and I, JB and I started talking, and then he introduced me to you guys, and of course JB and I have been talking about IBC since the end of 2023, I guess, kind of when he began to come into the world of wanting to know more and learn more. And then, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I guess he introduced me to you guys. And I knew that history that Simon mentioned a while ago, some of the issues in the past that have been there with crypto and IBC and some of the grief and anguish and problems that David and Carlos and the IBC Institute, the Infinite Banking Institute, had experienced. Not because of what crypto is, but because of some of the things some of the other folks were trying to do.
Bad players in there.
Right. And so I knew that you guys, what my take was from you guys and the time that I have spent with y'all just online and talking to JV and all, was that you guys were different and that was not what you were attempting to do and not what you were about.
Right.
And you told me more than one time that your heart was to make sure that the information you were putting out here to these people every week that are watching this live stream, that it was true and accurate and real based on Nelson's mission, message, and method.
That's right.
And that's me. I made a commitment to Nelson Nash when I used to sit with him one-on-one and be able to spend time with him, learning directly from him.
Right.
Years ago, he and I were talking one day, and I promised Nelson that I would continue that legacy, that his mission, his message, and his method. And that's why I say I'm a Nelson Nash purist.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You definitely are.
That I would continue that I would, because I thought it was worth continuing.
Right.
And I knew that you guys, I liked y'all, and we do business with people we like, know, and trust.
That's right.
And I knew that if you guys came here when we started talking about it, trying to work out a date that worked for everybody, and the stars lined up and it worked, that if y'all could get here and you could sit at David and Kim's house, and you can meet David and Kim, and you can meet Justin, that there's something about getting, eyeball to eyeball, kneecap to kneecap, that gives you that personal experience, and that it would be hugely beneficial for everybody involved. And that's why I wanted it to happen. That's why I suggested it to start with. And that's why I went to work to try to make it happen, with you guys being willing to come down here and Jarrett being willing to help. And so, and it was truly a team effort. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts and pieces.
Absolutely.
Truly a team effort in getting it to happen. So I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
I think it's hugely beneficial for everybody, not only involved now, but that will be involved in the future.
Yeah.
It's seldom in today's day and age that we live in that people are willing to fly across the country for out of pocket, but out of respect also. And nobody was selling anybody anything. Nobody made any money off anything. And it was so you could look somebody in the eye and shake their hand. It was more than just how do you say, more than just a Zoom call or some live chat. Not that live chats aren't great, but something that just solidified, boom, this team's going to work together. This is going to work. Sometimes when you meet each other in person, it's like, well, I don't know, I didn't find any jokes he told very funny. I didn't think he was comical. I didn't, he had an edge to him. And by the way, he was sort of like on his phone all day to give me time of day. I don't think I want to do business with that guy. I didn't get that from any of these people at all. So I was blown away by the hospitality. I really am. As far as us teaching Dave about crypto yesterday, honest to God, I had no idea we were going to walk in there and go for an hour straight.
An hour straight.
But he opened
live.
He
opened it. Yeah, he did open Pandora's box. And most of you out there, Allan can go for a couple hours, without taking a breath, and he did.
He doesn't talk much.
No,
He's a
I
real quiet kind of guy.
I'm shy. Yeah, very shy. Very shy.
Yeah.
But that was hilarious.
Mhm.
That was hilarious. We went there to really interview him.
Yeah.
And we got this beautiful tour and the history of Nelson through David's eyes, and as well as some of David's personal history as well.
Yeah.
And which was great. And then it's like, okay, all right, let's sit down and let's talk Nelson Nash Institute. Let's talk IBC. And it only took about 30 seconds for us. So Bitcoin, and it's like, in my mind, I'm like, here we go. This could last a little bit. XRP, we're gonna be here all day. But it was good because
It was good because he listened.
he did. He was generally interested in what it was.
And he even said that this morning when we went back.
He did. Yeah.
He was glad with that.
Yeah. It was good. And actually, later this afternoon, I had a private conversation by text with him a little further down the crypto road. So
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And he tried to sell me a hat for coins. So I don't know. We might be converted. That was
Allan didn't sell though, but I was willing. I just want that on the record. Allan did not sell, but I was totally willing. Willing to get anybody in this space with the positive points. So, but that was funny.
You know how we all know this. We're all crypto people. We're crazy and out of our minds, right? Like, gosh, are you kidding me? You're into what? I'm out. He listened, and that's all you can ask somebody to do. And when you have somebody like JV and Simon and I that knows much about crypto, it's really amazing the facts and the points that we hit him with weren't like just, well, you just got to buy it and get rich. It was like, well, no, the system is this and the money works like that. And it I don't know why I'm telling you all that. Everybody in this group knows already. But so after this weekend, we should really talk about Saturday and Sunday too. Do you want to talk about that right now, or what do you?
Let's close with
that.
Yeah, we can close with that.
Yeah, because that was special too. Now, going forward, here's what I learned this weekend. I learned that there's people who have a brokerage firm who has multiple policies. He owns it. He understands what he's doing. He has access to virtually every asset or investment class there is known to God. And he has numerous IBC accounts. That's pudding. That's the proof right there for me. That was one of the ones that clicked that Scott had brought up this morning. I believe he brought that up to me. And that was a fun little story that I'm going to tell later in a different video in a different manner. Those are the kind of things that it's the little tidbits about stuff. It's not like anybody sat down with a paper and wrote out and said, oh, here's a graph and here's how much money you make and how much money you save. Nobody did that. What it solidified, this whole trip for me solidified in my mind was not a scam. Nobody's turning and burning you. They're teaching you a skill. That a man who had a country way, old school, real world example of using a tool, that sometimes those are the greatest minds that ever touched this planet, because they think of it out of your eyes, through your lifestyle, through what can help the Johnsons, the Smiths, and the Joneses at grassroots level. This is not, it could be a corporate thing, but this is about getting people to empower themselves financially as honestly as humanly possible.
Yes.
And using the tools at your access. And we just didn't know. Everybody, first thing you hear is life insurance. And I'm out. Check. I'm out. Done. Some of my brother-in-law tried to tell me that. This is a skill set that you're going to, if you take the time and you learn something like this. The beauty of it, like you told that great story about, sometimes you don't even know if somebody's just talking about Christ or somebody's actually involved. Like, you don't know if somebody's actually talking their book about helping people's lives or just selling the book. Well, it's bigger than the book. It's bigger than all of that. And the stories and all of it. Now I'm rambling on. Scott, when you talk to people, what is the aha light bulb moment that you see a lot? Like, they're like, you're talking to the husband, maybe he gets it, and the wife just, oh, maybe that clicked for me. What are some of those examples?
I think one of the key points in infinite banking, and we talked some about this with Justin as well as David, right, is once people realize that we're talking about seceding from a system, that is the whole reason it makes it so difficult for people to understand this to start with.
Right.
And the way we think, because we have been, whether we willingly admit it or not, we've all been programmed to think a certain way by the system in which we live and operate every day.
Sure.
Right.
Amen.
And that system consists of governments, banks, Wall Street, all these different big, powerful entities out there, media, and all those things that are capturing our mind. And Nelson was big on changing our thinking.
That's right.
That was, if you can't change your thinking, you will never get IBC.
That's right.
Because if you can't change your thinking, you won't understand the problem.
Right.
And if you can't understand the problem, you can't understand the solution.
That's right.
To the problem.
Yeah, the process.
That's right. That's right. So getting people to realize how important it is to change their thinking is step one, and then being open-minded to even looking at IBC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's kind of funny that you're putting emphasis on that the open-mindedness. For you, that's had to be a major challenge in your 14 years in this IBC space, right?
Yeah.
And Allan and I come from the crypto space.
Right.
Well, we already have changed our thinking.
Right.
We've already not fully, right? But we're open-minded already, right? Right. The door's open. Might not be all the way, but the screen door might be.
Because one of my biggest frustrations has been through the years is knowing people that how much this could benefit them in their life.
Right.
And I pursued them because I wanted it for them worse than they wanted it for themselves. And I spent hours after hours trying to convince them, and they would never catch it. Like we said, it can't be taught, it has to be taught.
Right.
And I finally had to realize that. And some of those people come full circle and come back later on.
Yeah, right.
And some of them you never hear from again.
Right.
And that's okay too, because I want to help those who want to be helped. And we all need help.
Right.
We might not be willing to admit it, or we might be willing if we realize it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I want to help those who want to be helped, and because I can learn from them as well,
Sure.
But one of the biggest things is beginning to understand what it means to think like an owner instead of a customer.
And that's a challenge.
That's big.
That's
I
big.
like that.
That
I
is
like
big,
that.
yeah.
To think like an owner instead of a customer when it comes to the banking function in our life. Because infinite banking is all about taking control. It's about turning liabilities into assets by taking control of the banking function in our life. Because part of the book, Nelson talks about human behaviors. We talked about with David today. 1/3 of that book is about human behavior. And the fact that we have, without intentionally doing so, there again, been captured kind of by that system. And we've got to be willing to change our thinking, secede from that system, and understand our role in the play on the stage of life.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've surrendered our role on that stage.
Taking responsibility.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
We're exactly. Okay, am I just going to be the person that follows the rules all the time? Well, no, people are waking up right now.
Yeah.
I think society's really waking up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that point you just made a minute ago, it's like that old, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
What a lot of us do, particularly with crypto, and I'm sure it's the same with what you're doing with life insurance, like you're shoving the horse's head down to the water all the time, and you're realizing the horse doesn't like it. It's like, drink.
The other part of that is you can lead a man to knowledge, but you cannot make him think.
Exactly. It's so damn true. It's like, and the harder you push on them, sometimes they're just like, okay, now he's trying to get something from me.
Right.
Which is going back to what we were talking about earlier. You come all the way out here. Are they honest? Are they sincere?
Right.
Are they real people? Or they just want what's in my wallet? Well, no, we're trying to get more of what's in your wallet for you. And that's so hard.
It's like I told y'all today, going back to being the Nelson Nash purist, the times that I have been willing to walk away from a client because they were wanting us to do things that I knew would not be beneficial for them. It may look good right now, but in a few years it was going to break loose, come untied, and unravel for them, and it wasn't going to be good. And it wasn't the way Nelson did it, the way Nelson taught it to be done.
Right.
And I was willing to walk away from that. And
that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, because I want to do the right thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And the other thing is too, is what I'm getting a lot from most of the Nashers, if you will. David said it perfectly today too. Exactly what you just said. But David, here he is. He could have sold policies his whole life, but he's not. He's not that guy. But when he sits down and says, "Okay, 90-10, I don't like it. IUL, I don't like it." Yeah, that's an honest opinion. He's not just a man who's just trying to sell something else. He doesn't like it. He was talking about the laddering story, and that's a whole nother story. But he says, I'm trying to keep this honest because that's what's best for the person, the end line user.
Right.
Yeah.
David, today talked about, he's trying to keep people from going into the ditches on both sides of the road. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and he wasn't coming from an aggressive standpoint, but a firm standpoint of like trying to keep this to stay in the lane.
Right.
To stay in this lane, you stay literally. You could be in this lane, but you need to go that way and don't go in the ditch.
And he doesn't want to have happen to those people what happened to me on the way over here.
Well, but at least it's not rainy. It's not rainy. Yeah.
Somebody had a little tussle with a freeway and downpour rain on the way.
Wasn't my fault.
No. Somebody hydroplaned into our buddy Scott here on the way here.
It was probably a theory holder. Just kidding. Kidding. Inferior fans, I love you out there.
Maybe one.
We still love you.
Yeah, right. Well, thankfully, maybe you survived it.
Yeah, really.
Made it out here. Simon, when you heard Dave talk, I can't wait for you guys to see these interviews that we recorded. Oh man, they're just, I know that it's just a sit down with Allan to discussion with these guys, but there's so much wisdom in it because it's been their whole life long. Their whole life long they've been doing this, and they see how it's changed and empowered people their whole life. What else did you get from David's chat today? What did you catch from that? I got one thing that really stuck out.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. I want you to think about that. The one thing that really stuck out to me was a lot of people just kind of rehearse lines. Okay, he's not that guy. This guy is probably, like I was talking about earlier, a very military, very matter-of-fact type of guy. Okay, and he doesn't sell policies. But towards the end of the interview, he started at square one, and he just progressed in this conversation. And this is why I want you guys to watch it. I know it's about an hour long, but I really want you to watch it because it goes through in such a methodical, perfectly planned conversation. Yeah. And I was like listening to the man. I stayed out of the man's way. I teed the ball up a couple times, but other than that, he just progressed of like a perfect picture of what you're getting into and what's happening with IBC. That I was so taken because that's a skill, my friends. That's a real skill.
You know, able to do that. He said he should have his own YouTube channel.
Oh,
yeah, he should.
He's really good.
He's really good.
That's what I got from today.
You know, there's a few things that I had a laundry list actually, but something that he hit on that I remember reading a couple of times and hearing, but I haven't really heard anybody really touch on it in a lot of the videos that I've watched from other IBC practitioners, and that was being an honest banker. And I've heard it before, but today it really resonated with me. And the being an honest banker was, you know, in my mind it was like, okay, no, responsible.
Yeah.
Very responsible. Like own it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, own it. Be an honest banker. You know, be true to yourself. And I mean, we've all heard that through probably all of our lives, you know, but just the manner that he said it.
Well, he asked me the question.
Yeah.
He said, what is it, Allan, what does it mean being an honest banker?
Right.
I was like, pay yourself back. Yeah. And he took it the next step.
And then he took the next step. Yeah. But it was that, you know, and he also something that Some of the 40 and somethings and younger, we kind of really don't understand. Okay. What's the difference between debits and assets? Right. And for a moment I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, my crypto's an asset. What's the difference from a debit? Just money in, money out.
One's a debt.
One's a debt. One is a debt.
Yeah.
Right. And that was actually pretty thought provoking for me
Very
as well.
much so.
You know, it just solidified other components that honestly, Justin Kraft, like, man, there were some home runs in there. You guys really gotta watch it, because my part in that interview, because he re-explained something that all of us, including yours truly, we hit this wall. Like we get the flow, but we forget what's happening at each stop in that flow he talks about. But you guys are gonna have to check that out later.
That
was cool.
the first 30 minutes that I did with him on that was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just my part of it, mostly his part of it.
Yeah.
And but I teed him up on like 4 or 5 of the big questions that I get a lot.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is what you're going to hear. What's going to happen then? Scott, what do you think? Okay, I now want to go a little deeper with some application now. What do you think of somebody running not just their life, okay, their assets or their business through something like this? How have you seen that empower people in the past?
I do have, to my knowledge, one client that is pretty well at that point where he is running pretty much I don't want to say 100% of the revenue of his business, but a large percentage of his business revenue through multiple policies.
Right.
Because he knows that there's coming a time, as we talked today with David about windfalls. He knows there's coming a time for him when he will sell his business.
Mm-hmm.
And by building these policies and running his revenue through there and then pulling it back out to run his business, he's building a reservoir. He's building a warehouse that's going to be big enough to hold that windfall when he sells that business.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That is real cool.
Yes.
You need a big hole.
You got to have a big hole.
Yeah.
Now he also, on his loans, he pays his interest on those loans out of his business revenue.
Right.
So he's being an honest banker.
Right.
With a plan. If he didn't have a plan or a vision to have some way to fill that hole in those multiple holes in those multiple policies,
Right.
then that would not be a good thing to do.
Right.
But
Why?
because if there's no way to fill that back up, what have you done? You know what I mean?
You need some facts.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of going back, Simon, to your point about being the honest banker doesn't necessarily mean that remember, these loans, when we take these policy loans, they're completely unstructured between us and the insurance company.
Right.
There are no requirements on that loan.
Right.
None.
None.
The insurance company's charging interest. It's a mutual company. We're an owner of that company. That interest goes back to them to some degree. Part of it does. Part of the honest banker conversation is if I'm borrowing at 4% and market rates are 8%, I'm paying back at 8%.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that 4% is going to the company. I'm an owner of it. That's a profit. Part of that's coming back to me in dividend, but that other 4%, if I build my policy correct, remember David mentioned that the base is the engine that drives that train.
Yeah, it does.
I got to have a big enough engine. I got to have a big enough base. If I'm driving that train, then I can take that other part of that interest that I would have been, remember, thinking like an owner instead of a customer.
Right.
Before I'm a customer and I'm paying the bank 8% and I'm smiling and doing it, and shaking their hand.
Yeah.
Now I'm splitting that 8% up to an entity that I own.
Right.
And another entity that I own.
Right.
How much better does it get?
More better.
It can, and then when I do that, when I put that portion of it over here, not only do I have control of that, but now develop the compounding on it.
You're right.
Yeah.
And the tax benefits, and boom, here we go again.
You're right.
But if I didn't pay those loans back, at some point I didn't have a plan to at least service the interest, because the point I was going to make about the unstructured loan, personally, I have loans that I make monthly payments on. I have loans that I make a payment whenever I have excess cash So if it's a car loan, I'm gonna treat it like a bank loan. I'm gonna make a monthly payment.
Right.
But if it's an investment loan, if I've used it to fund Zeke's Magnolia Loan T-shirt business or
Sure.
whatever, then as I get chunks back in from that, then I have a place for it to go.
That's right.
But I factored the interest in on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
Right.
And go ahead, Sonny. I had something for that and I just lost it.
Oh, okay.
But it was, I got it.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a point about what you just said right there. Remember, even if you borrowed at 5% interest, okay, and you're only making 5% interest, you think it's just a wash, you think, or maybe you're paying a point or two extra. Remember who you're paying that money to, which is the company, the bigger parent company, which you are in some small sliver of a way, ownership of, right? So when that dividend comes in, they made money because you were paying them interest on top. That makes you an owner, almost like way better than what am I trying to say? A bank.
Stakeholder.
No. What do you call it? Instead of a normal bank, you have credit union. You're an owner, but way better than that. Yeah, it's the next level up of that because if it profits, they always do. It seemed to always profit for many years, hundreds of years. Seems like you're part of that profitability. Yeah. Anyway, I want to point that out because that fits right into that story.
Back to David. You triggered me. Holes. Okay. David today touched on I'm gonna call it kind of a strategy, if you will. Okay. And he's talking about windfalls, how to deal with the windfalls. Right. And what the strategy is that we have loans that we do from our policy, right? And you yourself, I pay the interest. Okay. Just the interest. And the reason why he was doing that now, right, or has maybe progressed to that level now, was because they were expecting windfalls, right? And so it's like, well, where do you put those windfalls? Yeah. Well, if you have loans to pay back to your bank, then you have a place to stick it all. So in a roundabout way, let's talk about that and maybe scale. Let's say I, over the course of 10 years, have taken multiple policy loans. I paid the interest on them and a little extra. Why not? Just get some more over there. But the majority of the outstanding principal is still there. So let's say for 10 years, I've accumulated $500,000 in loans. And then it happens. XRP goes to $15. What am I going to do with it? Well, now I have a place.
You got a hole.
I got a hole that I can fill up. And you might be thinking out there, well, why would you do that? It's like, well, hold on a second. I had a place to stick my profits, but for 10 years, I got to use that while I was waiting for XRP to go to $15, right? So I already had the cake, I had the frosting, I had the ice cream, and then it was later going, okay, there it goes. It goes back. Yeah. And I thought that was very thought-provoking. And when he said it, I instantly, of course, thought, crypto and the windfalls that we're expecting. Yeah. And I was like, that is great. Now, is that achievable now? I mean, I don't have a lot of policies, right? But it was great because it solved and gave me more peace of mind. Hey, debt is good. In this process, debt is very, very good.
Well, right? We turn those liabilities into assets.
Absolutely.
And there's no other way in place you can do that. And another thing too that I don't want people to miss, and I had this conversation with one of the guys from your show here that called me last week, and we were talking about windfalls and how we always think of windfalls as big financial windfalls.
Right. Right. I'm using big numbers, right?
I love where this is going.
Yeah. But we all get windfalls at some point in time, probably multiple times in life.
Yeah.
So let's say you have 3 children living in your home and they're on your payroll, right? And let's say, you know, that they're 2 years apart in age. And so they may or may not go to college. That's not the point here, but at some point they all come off of your payroll. Either they leave and get married or they do whatever. So they come off your payroll. So each of those children had a cost to you while they were in your home. There was insurance and there were vehicles and there was food and sometimes lots of it, according if it's boys or girls, you know, how much they eat, you know. But you're talking about if you sat there and really looked at it as each one of those children leave your fold, so to speak, your home, that's a windfall. That is positive cash flow.
Right,
That's
right.
money flowing back to you rather than out of your home. That is a windfall.
Right.
And so if you say, okay, well, after all 3 of my kids left over a 6-year period, that was probably a few $1,000s a month that it was costing me.
Yeah.
Teenage football players in particular. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So at the end of that year, the end of the first calendar year, man, I ought to have another $30,000 in the bank.
Right.
But I don't, because Nelson spent 1/3 of the book on human behavior. And this is where that fits in, because then we see that excess money in our checking account and it just floats out over here and it floats out over here. And we do these different things with it rather than using it to build for our future. It was all there again. We're thinking like a customer, not an owner.
Right.
We're sending it out where it was a windfall. Let's do something with it to where I can still spend it on some things, but I run it through. I start policies with it. I run it through my system. I get it compounding. 2 assets are better than one. So I go over here and I start my asset of a properly structured, properly funded whole life insurance contract for infinite banking. And I go buy a new car rather than just going and buying the car and the opportunity cost is gone forever on that money.
Right.
That's right.
And so that windfall comes. And if we thought about it, rather than grandmama dying and leaving me $250,000 at one time,
Right.
if I have $20,000 or $30,000 a year more because my kids are out of the house after
Or
10
pay raise.
pay raise.
That was another good one. Yeah.
That was another,
Pay raise.
Yeah.
Good one too.
Pay raise. You know, whatever it is, I get that same amount just over a longer period of time. But if I do the right thing with it, I'll get far more benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like
Valid.
the pay raise is like, all of us have done this, right? When you start off when you're younger in life, you make $50,000 a year and you just think you're filthy rich. And then you make $100,000 a year and you're not ever saving any money. That's what he's talking about with the 30, that 30% of the book is about human element.
Yeah.
You've got to fix that, and you've got to be the owner of your bank, not the victim of just, oh, I'll buy this new shiny thing, this next shiny thing. Doesn't mean you have to live without it. It means you have to have a place for that new pay raise, or the kids leaving the house, or whatever opportunity. Again, windfalls are not just XRP going to 15, although that's going to be a really nice one when it comes, but it's all of these little things. That's what I really love about JV. He explains to me in so many different ways how $50 and $90 here and 150 there, whatever it is, that adds up at the end of the month. And it's not like he's living without. He's just saying, I want to reuse that money because it's my money. I want to keep it in my bank. That
Control.
I love it. Control of it.
I remember one time talking to Nelson. We were actually at one of our think tanks, and Nelson was speaking to a group of us, and we were talking about real estate. And someone said, you know, they say that he was talking about location of real estate, how important it is. And I said, Nelson, I raised my hand, and he said, yes. I said, Nelson, I said, so if the 3 most important things in real estate are location, 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 I would say the 3 most important things when it comes to our money is control, control, control.
Yeah.
And, and he used that from then on, you know, and because that hit me, and it's very true. I mean, you know, who's in control of our money means who's profiting off of our money, who's using our money, and, you know, so forth from not only the short term, but the long
term as well. Yeah.
We can entrap our money to work for us and stay within us.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Yes.
Because I got a question from Oak. Is that all right if we knock that out of the park?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Hope he isn't asking me to answer.
Well, you guys can roast shape up. The question is, in the book, it says you have to pay the insurance company the employees, but doesn't explain. Can you talk about that? So I think there might be a double meaning there, in regards to paying the employees, or we're talking about paying the insurance company.
Yeah.
Can you break that down a little
Yeah,
bit?
the part that I think he may be referring to, he or she referring to, is maybe where it talks about the division of the dividends. That at the end of the year, when so the insurance company, a mutual insurance company. When I say investments, guys, don't think Wall Street, because they don't go to Wall Street to invest their money. They're very secure investments. They're real estate investments. They're bonds, and these people are investing, these companies are investing with billions of dollars, not millions of dollars. So just a little bit difference in price of what they get an asset for to back this up with is tremendous. They're thinking 50 years down the road. Stock companies are thinking quarterly because they got to pay their stockholders. Mutual companies are thinking 50 years down the road. So when we pay our policy loan interest back, every year there's multiple asset classes that are producing money, because the insurance company has to be able to pay death benefits. So if I made my, if the death benefit on my policy were $500,000 and I made my first annual premium, on it, or monthly every house, or even monthly, let's say
Your first pay.
let's say monthly, it's a very small percentage. And a Mack truck, if I'd have died in that wreck the other day, that Mack truck hits you day one, they got to write a check for $500,000.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
It's no different than your homeowner's insurance from that perspective. You have a $500,000 home, you go to the home insurance company and you take out a policy and you write them a check for $200, and that's the first month's premium.
Yep.
And tonight your home gets struck by lightning and burns to the ground. Tomorrow there's an adjuster out there writing you a check for $500,000 or whatever the value of your home, and you only pay them $200. How can they do that?
Right.
Well, they have to make a profit.
Right.
And they have to make good profit and steady profit, but not risky profit.
Right.
So our policy loan interest, 4%, 5%, whatever, is profit to the insurance company.
Right.
That we are part owners of.
Right.
So at the end of the year, they're going to sit down, the board of directors is going to sit down and say, okay, we brought this much revenue into the company this year. All right. And our payroll was this much. So that's the employee.
Yeah.
Our payroll was this much, our water bill was this much, our power bill was this much.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, there's this pile of money left on the table.
Right.
That looks like dividends. But they say, okay, being conservative and mutual, because they have a lot more conservative business mind than stock companies do.
Right.
We're not going to take this entire pile and divide it up. We're going to set a contingency fund aside in case some unexpected thing happens next year. It doesn't hurt our business operations.
Right.
And then we're going to divide this up.
Right.
To dividends.
Yeah.
To our policy holders.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the part that he's asking the question about, if I'm understanding right, is in that analogy, paying the employees was part of where not the dividends went, but the revenue, the profit of the company.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The insurance company.
Yeah.
Is working
yes.
for the owners.
Yes.
Of the company.
Yes.
The policy owners.
That's right.
So when
They work for us.
they work for us.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They
Not
work.
to seek profit or dividend.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we're paying that interest back, we're not only paying for the insurance company to do their job very, very well.
Right.
We're also paying, in a roundabout way, our dividends. Because we're owners.
That's right.
It's profit, right?
That's right.
And when you hear companies like Goldman Sachs and other mega corporations, and you say, well, how is it they went 4 years without a losing trade? Well, this is where my expertise comes in a little bit. They have the element of time. They don't have to close the trade in 6 months or 6 weeks. It can be 6 years or 60 years. They don't have to wait for the dips and the peaks and all the rest of it. They're like, hey, why would we close a trade when it's 300% up? Only if you need the capital. But you would never ever have, if you have billions of dollars under asset, you would never have to take a losing trade. Why would you do that? You don't need to, right? So that's how they look. They think long term, as conservative as possible. They look 10, 20 years out. They say, is this company or this investment going to go away or not? They don't care if it makes money or anything else. Is that trade going to vanish? Because I have the luxury of time and distance, because it will be profitable eventually. Yeah, for them. With all of that, one of my favorite discussions that we had just the other day was this one. Now, all of us in crypto, we all sit around and we go, okay, all right, but when we first learned about Bitcoin, we first learned about a coin or whatever it might be, we try to get it to fail. That's what we do. And we're like, how does this thing fail? How's the companies making all the money and taking all of us and just throwing us out to dry and taking all our money? I will tell you, can't find a negative, people. And I'm digging. I'm looking for you guys. I'm trying to find where's the negative. And we couldn't. Remember that discussion the other day, Simon? We were having it, I believe we were at the beach. And it was like, okay, what negative could we find? Really, the only negative we could find is if you just started a policy that was too big for you, and then you went flat broke, and then even that is not necessarily a negative. I mean, you're not going to owe more than you put in. That's never going to be the case. So it's not a negative dollar amount. But I just couldn't get anything to fail in my head. I'm still working on it. It's not a perfect investment, but I don't know anything else where I've seen it where like, oh, this guy's got all that commission. I'm never going to catch back up to that. I'm just never going to get caught back up if I take my money out too quick or whatever.
You know, you call it an investment, and it is, but in a different kind of context. It's not an investment in the truest form that we know an investment. I go buy XRP, I have an investment. I go gold, I got an investment, etc. This is literally an investment in you. This is an investment in you and your way of life, and whatever comes after you. If there's lineage, do-gooder, do-gooder stuff, charity, etc. The list can go on and on. So, when we're talking about this investment, it's really the investment in you. And yes, it is it is an asset, but it is a far different asset than the assets that we may be used to. It has characteristics just like the assets that we have out there. Yeah. But that's the policy, the concept. Another investment is the concept is the process of the mechanics to utilize the asset in this process.
We don't. You just made me think. That's perfectly put. We don't have XRP. Crypto is not necessarily a tool that you can use for your finances. I mean, it is to some degree. You can use it as an asset. You can profit from it. And Ripple is going to clearly use XRP as a tool. They're going to transfer money in all around the world. I get that in a tool pack. And yes, you can use it as a tool to send money from one location to another on your phone. I get that. What he's just explained to everybody so well is you're learning a skill set.
Absolutely.
That you're going to have the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And it's going to help you move even crypto money or buildings or whatever it might be around in an ability that you're going to achieve. And the light bulb moment for this, the light bulb was every bit as bright as the crypto light bulb for me.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, it
well
really
said.
was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you're all going to get it.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, no, they're going to catch it. They're going to catch it.
I think, sometimes a client will ask me, okay, where can this go south? Where can this go wrong?
Right.
Yeah. And my comment to them is it wouldn't go wrong, but the name of the book is Becoming Your Own Banker. the concept is the infinite banking concept. Well, what does banking imply? Banking is movement of money, right? It's flow of money.
Right.
You know, so too many people try to make it about the product, and the product's important. The right product, the right company, the right structure,
Yeah,
the right coach,
right.
all that's important, and it doesn't work without it.
Right.
That's right.
But the process is banking.
Yep.
The process is flowing money, is using the asset, you know, or the policy, the product for that flow of money. And I tell people, I say, it wouldn't go wrong for you. It just wouldn't be anywhere as close to as good as it could be if you didn't use it.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Because you're not thinking like, if you just park money there, you're not thinking like an owner, you're still thinking like a customer, because you haven't taken control of the banking function in your life.
Use it or lose it.
That's right.
And what has been the most consistent, steady business to be in over the last few thousand years? Banking. You
And
need to be the bank.
and
And
insurance.
insurance. Oh, so, yeah, as well.
Yeah.
Banking is the most profitable business in the world.
110% agree.
And like Nelson said, everybody should be in two businesses. Do what you do every day, whether you own the business or work in somebody else's business. Do it and do it well, but also be in the banking.
Absolutely.
And you can.
Yeah.
I get so excited about this. It's hard to, and sometimes it's just hard to contain myself on this topic. It's like, oh yes, oh it's crypto 2.0.
The one thing that blindsided me was we go to Dave's house yesterday, and thank you again, Dave. You're
Yeah,
so
Dave,
generous
thank
with your time.
And Kim,
And Kim.
thank you.
And Cole, the dog. Yeah. So we get there, and basically the first thing he says to the two of us is like, so you're on episode 7 and it's 2 hours of show. What are you guys doing over there? I was like, man, we're just getting started. Are you kidding me, man? Simon and I are going to be able to talk about this for a long time to come.
Oh yes.
It's new to us, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's empowering.
Very
So powerful.
Very empowering. Very empowering.
The people of my channel, when they get this, they're going to look back a year or 2, 3 years from now, and they're going to say, the most powerful thing I did in personal empowerment was IBC. I'm telling you, folks, when you get this and when you use it and you see its application, then you're going to start playing with little. If you use it as a game, and if you get as intense into the study of this, like you did learning crypto, you're going to get this. And when you do, you're going to be like, wow. I'm going to teach my kids, and then I'm going to drive them crazy and bored of Massachusetts trying to get them to learn this.
I'll share something real simple, real. It always tickles me to think about. So one of the very first clients I had started a policy, and the money was in there. We were trying, like he said, okay, what can I do with this money? I said, well, we were talking about debts he had and talking about things he wanted to buy and stuff. And I said, well, have you got any credit card debt? He said, well, I don't, but my wife does. And I don't mean that in any derogatory way. but he said she does. And he said, that's something we've been talking about. And it was like maybe $10,000 worth of credit card debt. And I asked him, I said, what's the interest rate on that debt? This has been right after I started the business. So it's been about 14 years.
14 years. Okay.
And the interest rate was like 12%.
Okay.
And I said, so we've got plenty of cash value in the policy to take a loan and pay that off.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so how would that work? I said, well, being the honest banker, I said, we'll take that policy loan, send it to the credit card company, and we're going to pay them off. And then you're going to cut the credit card up because we don't want to duplicate the debt again. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said, and the interest rate on the loan, 4 or 5%, whatever it was at that time. And I said, but you're going to continue to make the same 12% payment back into your system, because that's what you've been doing. Understand economic value added.
Yeah.
The value of money. Let's value our money as much as we value MasterCard or Visa's money.
Right.
And now we're gonna, and there again, we talked about having that separate checking account, and flowing that money through it. And what he was able to see then was every month that payment went into that checking account at 12%.
Right.
It left it at the 4 or 5% back to the insurance company, and that extra money began to accumulate. And that was the ownership. That was him beginning to see, okay, this is what was going this is where they were making now, I'm making that.
Yeah.
But
It used
you,
to go to them and now it's going to me, the
Yeah.
new banker.
but you've got to discipline yourself to think like an owner and to realize to overcome Parkinson's law and let that money become yours to use for your future,
Yeah.
not just to blow in the present.
Right.
And
You threw a term out. Explain Parkinson's law real quick.
yeah, well, it's overcoming the desire to Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law is there again, we get more, so we spend more, and Nelson talks about even outside of infinite banking in the book, he says, if you can overcome Parkinson's law, even if there were no such thing as the infinite banking concept, you will win by default over your friends that
Right.
can't overcome and conquer Parkinson's law.
Right.
So if I can overcome the idea that expenses rise to equal income, you heard what I just said, right?
Yeah.
Expenses rise to equal. And that goes back to the time envelope allowed
Yep.
increases to,
Right.
I can't remember exactly how it worked, but the job, if I give somebody 30 minutes to do a job,
It'll get done.
they're going to get done in 30 minutes. But if I give them 3 hours, it's going to take 3 hours.
For the same job.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
So it's overcoming that mindset to realize that there's always somewhere else that my money could go. But if I'm going to treat my money like the bank's money and understand economic value added, that all capital has a cost, then I better be willing to do
Right.
that
Right.
if I'm going to profit myself for the future.
Right. And that gets back to what you were talking about earlier, the human condition, right? A third of the book is human condition.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me as I was listening to the book and reading the book.
Yeah.
It really did, because I was already kind of on that journey with myself, a constant self check-in. Why am I buying this? Do I really need this today? Today, yeah, 7 hours of sleep, 4 days. Yeah, I need. All right, maybe I got a little bit more than that. I think we're up to 11 hours. Go on. Yeah, I know. Look like we just got out of Scooby-Doo band. But the mindset, I almost feel like that is far more important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Right. To really pay attention to, because if it's not happening up here, at least for me, it ain't gonna happen here in the physical.
And remember, we're not telling you have to do without.
No, man, no.
We're actually telling you that debt is good.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that happened. When I knew somebody got it,
Yeah. Dean.
Dean on
Yeah,
Saturday.
Dean on Saturday.
Love you, brother, man. It was good
Yeah.
to spend the
Oh
weekend.
man, hard gold right there.
Yeah, all of it, man, all the whole
I
gang.
mean, all of them.
He was like, oh, so wait a minute, I'm using debt to my advantage. That's good. And I was like, bing, done. That guy's got it. Next. Who else are we talking to over here? As soon as he said it the way he said, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's done. He figured this out.
Yeah.
And he's an ex-banker. And sometimes those are the hardest people because they're so stuck in that tunnel vision of, no, that isn't how it works, because they're teaching people to be the employee, not the owner of the company.
Right. Those the consumer, the customer, yeah.
And talking about changing that way of thinking, and Allan, you mentioned earlier about Nelson and his book, how he uses scripture and biblical references and stuff.
Right.
And I myself, being a Christian and stuff, and subscribing to the Bible and scripture.
Sure.
One of the things that Nelson and I talked about, and that really struck me was, and I don't think this particular scripture is in there, but in Romans 12:2, it tells us that in order not to conform to the world, if we want to be ye not conform to the ways of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So herd mentality is default mode.
Absolutely.
It takes no intention for me to do the things that everybody else out there is doing.
Yep.
I don't have to think about it. I don't have to question. I just follow the herd.
Right.
So I conform by default. I conform to the way everybody else is doing it.
Right.
Maybe it's because, I was given information by people that were not ill-intended or anything, but it was just unthinking.
Yeah.
If I don't want to transform to the ways of the world, that's when it takes the intentionality, and that's when the renewing of our mind comes in. And the renewing of our mind means thinking differently.
Yes.
Thinking in different ways, because I have to intentionally do that, or I'm, like I said, default mode is I'm going to conform and go the way of everybody else. And if I go the way of everybody else, my outcomes are going to be like
That's right. Same results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It goes back to the habits and the beliefs and
Right.
those kind of
Right. And then you're going to end up in Parkinson's law.
things. Yeah, that's right.
Even though you keep getting a raise every other year, it's like you don't have any more money.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what am I doing here? Well, oh, that's right. I'm following the sheep's tail in front of me instead of like,
right.
what am I going? Well, hey, let's look around, get a clear view of what else I can do. So I talk about pulling the chip out, putting a new chip in, and you have to stay open. I know most of us are. In particular, I'm really proud of our crypto crew because most people don't get crypto, and you did. That means you can think outside the box. That means you're an innovator. That means you understand where the future's going. That means you're not afraid of technology. This is sort of I don't even know. It's not a technological revelation in my life. It's a old school analog wisdom
Yeah,
way of using money.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it truly is.
Right.
Yeah, it's biblical time. Like back in the day, well, there was a lot more of this going on like that. Now, wasn't that you that told me the story that 200 years ago, we all had this? Everybody used to use their life insurance this way,
Well,
or it's more common.
yeah. Well, I would say in the early part of the 1900s through the late 70s, early 80s, when the government gave us exceptions to the tax code for tax qualified plans.
Only out of the kindness of the
Yeah, exactly. No ulterior motive behind that at all. So life insurance, whole life insurance, there were only two types of life insurance in existence at that time, term and whole life. And whole life was the only one that produced cash value. So not even structured like Nelson teaches to accelerate the cash value, but just traditionally structured. It was a mainstay of American savings. It was where people put money, because what you're really doing is collateralizing your life value.
Right.
You are the most valuable asset you have.
Right.
Right.
So you're able to take your life value and collateralize it monetarily and grow that value, over time. And so people understood that and they did it. And we talked today about how, the speech that Reagan did in '64, Time for Choosing, where he spoke to an audience in 1964 and talked about an insurance policy, and the audience knew what he was talking about.
Right.
Because it was the only thing that produced cash value for their benefit in the future.
Right.
And that was traditional, And we talked about like Pampered Chef wouldn't exist were it not for the ability of the lady, I can't remember her name, but she took a policy loan to start it in Disneyland and McDonald's and JCPenney and all those companies that were formed during the early 1900s because of this product, not this process, not this concept, but the product behind it that we're talking about.
And to touch on that, we had the 1929 snafu, right? And I would love to see what companies were how they were doing prior to that, and what companies were still around, and what they did to stay around, to survive, to keep on going, right? And I bet my bottom dollar that's not compounding right now, they went to get a policy loan.
Yeah.
Especially if that was the standard.
And they were, most of these companies went through that Great Depression and
absolutely.
And still made a profit. I can say that.
IBM was around. I know that they did first typewriter, right? IBM was around.
Yeah.
Yeah, IBM.
Yeah, I believe so.
General.
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't?
No, I know I'm old, but I'm not bad.
I had to take that one. That was easy stuff, man. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
You can push me down the stairs later.
no, that's okay.
Why not? My wife will get
Age
if
is
you
wisdom.
do it right.
Make sure you have policy.
Yeah, no, we're paid up. I made sure of that. We're getting premium went in yesterday. I'm good.
You get stupid ideas out there.
Yeah, no. You guys talk about biblical, and there's The Richest Man in Babylon. Have you read it there? Yeah. And that, right? Yeah, I know we talk about it all the time. Probably it's one of my most favorite books, so I talk about it all the time. But it really was from that time period, right? Right.
Yeah,
And when doing Bible study and all that, that's kind of where you went was back in that era, right?
Yeah.
And the author that wrote that book, very creatively, by the way, The Rich Man in Babylon, was short stories, but in that book, I think it's I don't know. I want to see. I think it's chapter 2. They talk about insurance, but it wasn't around it. It was like maybe in the future, a group of men. By the way, this is very long time ago. The setting, okay, not excluding any women out there. You go, bros.
I spoke in terms of
Mankind would get together and bring pools of money together, so that if one or two or three of them, what they say, would pass into the great darkness, that their estate for their family would be taken care of.
Yeah.
And I read that and I was like, oh, he's talking about insurance.
Yeah.
Read Nelson's book.
Yeah.
I listened to The Richest Man in Babylon again, just to kind of switch up the auditory information, and I came across. I was like, that's so funny. That you nailed that. I nailed that. It was really interesting.
I was reading something a long time ago. That reminds me of a story. Like when the Pilgrims came to North America, the first couple of years were just brutal. They just didn't make it. But it wasn't until they could start like a country store. Well, back then, the country store made enough profit to where he would support 4 or 5 farms in case one of them had a really bad year. And they'd be like, okay, I'm going to have enough grain, or I'm going to have enough corn, or whatever it might be, because if I support all of them, they can't all mess this up, right? We're gonna be okay. And then they diversified into different regions and whatnot. In case this one flooded, that one didn't, or whatever, fire. Or back then they dealt with a lot of fire. So the idea, I know it sounds a little bit socialist in a lot of ways, and it can be used that way, but what they've really done to us over these years, going back to on this story now, is 100 years, 50 years ago, they were like, okay, it's a good idea to put your money in a life insurance policy, because not only are you getting compounding interest, 50, 60 years ago, they enticed us to get out of life insurance policies, and they got us into banks. But that's been, banks used to pay you 5, 6, 8% interest, and it was worth saving your money instead of a mattress. They were trying to get the cash out of the mattresses and into the bank. Well, what does the bank give us now? Zip. They don't give you zip. So they've slowly weaned you out of life insurance policies, and they've slowly weaned you up the insurance to the point where there's no reason to hold. Why would you hold cash? Yeah, and that's where we've got. And it's I'm sure it was an accident.
Well, yeah. Right. Remember that right. That also talked about us seceding from, I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, we hit on that a little bit, today, that I think, and just kind of thinking through this, that as middle America, we've kind of been our own worst enemy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure. For a long time, because we've listened to the system, we've believed it, and we haven't planned generationally.
No.
But so as middle America, y'all remember Stretch Armstrong?
Of course.
Yeah, Stretch Armstrong. That may have been.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. You can't forget Stretch.
So kind of like Stretch Armstrong. We're getting stretched from the top's pulling us here, and the bottom's pulling us here, and we're getting stretched and stretched and stretched, thinner and thinner, right? But to our own,
That's empowered.
But to our own making, because we are not thinking generationally. We're not thinking 2, 3 generations ahead, and planning that way, and understanding the tools that we need to use to plan that way.
Right.
But not to do it in a irresponsible manner.
Right.
to teach our children and our grandchildren stewardship and financial responsibility. Because I can promise you to the nth degree that if Nelson Nash was sitting here right now and he heard us talking about generational planning, he would remind us that part of that generational planning is teaching the next generation how to do the same. And the only way to do that is to teach them to be as responsible with what they have coming so that they can continue that process on and on and on.
My son's favorite thing that he says about me when it comes to economics is he says, Dad, all of a sudden in the last 5-10 years, it's gotten really popular to talk about generational wealth. Dad, you've been telling me that for 25 years. So that's the most impressive thing. You're the only person I know that even talked about it 20 years ago, Dad. And I learned it from where? The wealthy. The wealthy who I worked for always thought generationally, because 70 or 80 years goes by really, really fast. And you need to be thinking of the youth, because especially in this country, we don't live with all three generations anymore, right? And we just kind of throw the old guy out of the bus, when he's 70, 80 years old. Well, let's stuff him in a home, right? And you want to make sure that your children are going to know how to take care of you in your later years. And I'm not trying to be like hard on anybody, but if you taught them how to handle money, they're going to know how to handle the money you leave them, which is going to help you on the way out the door. So, yeah.
I'd like to go back to, I could piggyback on the generational wealth thing. Scott, you and I kind of touched on this, and it was related to Parkinson's law, the envelope time effect, right? Okay, so to the generational wealth part of that is, if we are only planning, thinking about this process and using it just for our existence on this earth, we will only plan and have the resources for our existence currently on this earth. If we think about our kids' existence on this earth, like till the day they graduate as well, then we will only plan for that. So you mentioned 3 generations ahead. So if we think about planning and implementing for 3 generations ahead, well, generation 1 will absolutely be taken care of through that process. Generation 2 also be taken care of through that process. And generation 3, okay, generation 2, it's your turn.
Right.
To run the ball for another 3 generations or whatever. And man, that really brought that around to me, because, I know that in all my dealings with what I do throughout the day, I only need this much, or one of the, always going back to 0. If I can only do this, stop. You should be trying to go far forward, because in order for you to achieve that distance of time, you have to achieve all the others before you get there. It's just natural.
And also, let's think about what happens to us all. Inflation, right? So people who were 20 a generation ago, if they had $3 or $4 million, they were set for life. $3 or $4 million isn't going to cut it. I mean, it's not going to cut it for your kids, that's for sure, right? So a lot of families cashed out at whatever. Let's say you make $10 million. Okay, great. But if your kids and you don't have the skill to hang on to that, or turn that 10 into 12 without working, think about that, guys. You could turn 10 million into 12 over, 5-10 years without having a job. So that means you're staying ahead of inflation, or at least up with it. So generationally, there's so many people that I know that they made $10-15 million 20 years ago, and they bought a ranch or a farm, and the family loses it the next generation because of inflation just cripples them, and they don't know how to manage the farming loans, and all those loans can be done in your own house. You need a new tractor. You go down and buy a tractor from the bank, he's going to win because he's the banker, and a bank always wins. So you need to become the bank. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yes, I think that was you talking about that today, about farmers, the farms in the
that's
area.
Yeah, by the way, we have a Farmer John, he's, very much into IBC.
Yeah.
As well. He's, what was you mentioned the lady's name?
Mary Jo Ehrman.
Yeah.
That's her heart, her passion.
Yep.
She worked very closely with Nelson.
Yeah.
Mary Jo came into the space about the same time I did.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us were at our first think tank together.
Right.
And she grew up a farm girl in North Dakota. And so she worked very closely with Nelson with his permission to take his message and rewrite it to some degree in language that spoke to the farming, mostly ranching, but the farming world.
Sure.
Giving him full credit, and even, using some of his material in that book. But it did a great job. And I use that book often, like I've got 3 farming clients right now that we're working with that have all read that book.
Can we touch on that? You mind if we swirl off just for a minute on the farming thing?
Of course.
Okay. Oh, you
I
do
don't know
mind?
anything about farmers.
Something in farming, Farmer John, feel free to correct me on this, but most of them get in this horrible situation. And that is they sign that they'll have maybe 1, 2, 3 hard seasons, where it just wasn't enough. And then they either give up the farm or they sign a personal guarantee, which they also annoyingly really kind of just gave up the farm right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They don't make
And that's what Mary Jo's trying to stop.
Yeah, exactly. So, from your personal experience, you said you have three farming clients, right?
Yeah.
How in process?
Yeah. I have multiple ones that are in the process of becoming clients.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Are any of them expressing that type of situation to you?
Oh, yeah. Well, and so my longest farming client is a 12-year client.
Okay.
And this year, they will take over the operating loan of their farm.
Oh, wow.
That's
That's
a big
huge.
So 12 years into it,
Right.
life threw them some curveballs along the way, and they had to make some changes. But this year, they will take over the operating. They'll tell the bank, goodbye. They'll need you anymore.
Bye.
But yeah, so how empowering is that for that family? And this is mom and dad, and they have 2 children in the farm that are there. So you talk about generational planning.
Yeah.
That's it. So when for most farmers, August, September is a slow time. And so I'm going to be meeting with them soon, and we're going to look at.
Just think what that does to their profitability.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
It is.
That's huge.
Yeah. And people might say, well, gosh, that took 12 years. It's 12. We're talking generationally here, guys. I mean, we're talking 12 years. And yeah, we wanted it to happen in 8 or 10, and life threw us some curveballs along the way. And, we had to tweak the plan a little bit, time frame. But yeah, I mean, so, but yeah, farming is, I have a client that's one of my retirement income planning clients that's in his 80s.
Okay.
And he's farmed since he was 25 years old.
Right.
The man has every receipt that he ever did any kind of exchange, whether he was selling a commodity or buying input for his farm. He knows every dollar he ever spent for the last 60 years.
Right. Cool. Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a lot of filing cabinets.
Yeah. And going back to the system and thinking differently, and we talked about seceding from the system. I asked him one day when I used to do my radio show, Money, Taxes, and Freedom, and I asked him one day, I interviewed him, and I said, Mr. Glenn, what's the worst thing that ever happened to the American farmer? And he said, the day the government got involved.
Yeah. Yep.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. With all the programs that they put out. And remember, that's what got Nelson to thinking about infinite banking, because forestry is agriculture.
Right.
And Nelson was a forester.
Right.
And he was looking at all these programs where farmers, because a lot of people who own timberland are farmers, were being paid money by the government not to do something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And Mr. Glenn never knew Nelson, but talked about the exact same things that when those people would come on his property trying to get him to participate in this program, get out of here. I want none of that.
Right.
Where does that even begin to make sense?
No.
So the government's paying them not to farm so that What? The price of food's going down? No.
Yeah.
No, that's supply and demand. I believe that's economics 101.
Things to make
So-
you go,
Right, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I just want to say this one point. This man's been doing this for 14 years. Does he look bored with it all to you? I mean, you can't be into something without having a passion for it, but the passion is when he sees it through the light bulb of his clients. And like, it's so rewarding. Man, it's empowering.
It's very empowering.
Yeah.
Empowering, man.
Yeah.
Listen,
It really is.
listening to Jared Vick, JV,
Mhm.
I mean, I've had the distinct pleasure of talking with him every day, and we've had so many moments together, just excitement and knowing that empowerment is literally on the way to us. It's inevitable,
Right.
and that's not sitting there and go, oh, do this. Could this happen? There's just no could. It's on the way.
And the only reason why he's not here tonight is because he had to go to work and he's a working man. And it's his Tuesday night. But had, like, he been here.
He drove all the schlups around.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would probably just bounce this guy out and I had those two guys for myself. So, hey, this guy earlier was like, oh no, just the two of you. I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, three stooges here tonight. We're not doing We're having fun here tonight. How long we been going here, guys? We gotta eat some dinners too.
Yeah.
1 hour and 30 minutes. I mean,
Holy
we got 8 hours, so we have to be up and on our way to an airport.
We gotta get rolling. So we got a bright and early morning. I'm hoping you guys got something. If you didn't get anything other than just feel the passion and the respect and the love that I have for the people that created this incredible infinite banking system, and the heritage is still alive. By the way, I didn't get the girl's name, sorry. Kim's daughter and Dave's daughter is Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are going to be blessed with the next generation. Speaking of generational wealth, she is going to keep the legacy rolling.
Yeah.
You
Through
got to keep that book alive.
keep through the Nelson National Institute. Man, I'll tell you what, sometime in the future, Allan, I would love to get her, Zeb,
Yeah.
hopefully the next
Right,
generation out there. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear their perspective.
Right.
Because I think Lee's probably about my age range. I'm the sexy 35 that's 45.
She's probably 40. Yeah.
She's about 40. Yeah.
She said the boys were 30. It was
Yeah, I would think Lee's around 40.
Around 40. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because I was in Zeb's 22.
22.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. That's a good race because we got the mid and the just and
And I'll tell you, when he came to me last year, and he'd been around this, and like I said, the first time I traveled from Georgia to Alabama to come meet.
Oh, that's right.
Zeb was with me, 7 years old. He doesn't really remember it, but he met Nelson and shook his hand and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But last year, about this time of last year, last September, when Zeb came to me and said, Daddy, I've been running front banking all my life. I've heard you talk about it. We use it. I understand. I want to do this. I want to be able to help you help people.
Yeah.
And you're talking about getting goosebumps. I just got
Yeah.
because to me, that was the coolest of the coolest moment. Because here I am in an office with where Zeke, my son, who has the garment business, he's right there. We're helping him.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, and now Zeb's in the business with me, so it's just really cool to be able to have that. I'm grateful for that, and it's humbling because not everybody has that opportunity to be able to work side by side with their kids and do good stuff and to truly help people in doing it.
Yeah, I'm blessed in that way because my son and I started this channel that way.
Absolutely.
And, every Sunday we get to spend a couple hours together.
Yep.
Let's talk about Zeke.
Right.
Through the kindness of this man, he gave both Simon and I a T-shirt. I'm telling you, it's the most comfortable thing I've ever worn.
Yes, it is.
We are going to, this is not even a maybe, I'm going to work with his son to some degree, maybe to some XRP or Bitcoin shirt print, something real simple so that everybody can put one of these things on their back and they can feel what I'm talking about. This is made in America cotton, and the farm is on the tag and their story of the farm or whatever. And you can look at their website and get the shirts. I believe you can buy singles.
Yeah.
Yeah, by yourself without it. But might as well get one with XRP on there and a Bitcoin. They're not cheap because cheap isn't worth wearing, right? But they're not that expensive. I was blown away. I was like, wow, okay, I could sell those, not, so I don't lose money, but I'm not going to make a ton of money, but I want to get them on people's backs. That's what I'm talking about. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that coming up in the future. And I'm even thinking about just putting it out there because I know there's so many incredible artists that I'm going to put it out there that we maybe submit design ideas for our channel and for coins that you like. And then we could, hey, this one's this month or this one's this year. And maybe we could do a one every year or something like that and get participation from everybody to go with that route. Let's go ahead and we got to go out to dinner. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're probably going to do barbecue because that's about what we do around here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who struggles with that? So, all right. Closing statements here, Simon. What do you got for everybody?
Closing statements.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Closing statements.
You always have something.
What?
Yeah.
That's just rude. I do. Okay. Actually, if you guys don't have the book yet, as I left to come down here, I found out it was sold out. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to drop a link to Mr. Chapman's site. You actually can get the book for cheaper than on Amazon, $17.76. So if you don't have the Becoming Your Own Baker book by R. Nelson Nash, here is just another link for you guys just to go and get it. Okay, and get it, read it, read it again, that's honestly my final statements right there. Get the book, read the book, and congratulations to all of you that have the book. Landon, big shout out.
Mr. Scott, what do you have for everybody? And please get put out where people can get a hold.
It's been an honor to be with you guys and much appreciated and glad that this worked out for us to do this because getting the message of infinite banking out to more people is what I try to do every day and what you guys are trying to do because it is real and true and it's something I'm very passionate about and want to help as many people as I can and that's they say if you enjoy what you do you never work a day in your life
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, some of our clients get it right away and some take more interaction, but that's okay because it's helping people and so I just there again, read the book, reach out, I'll give you my phone number. You're welcome to text me, call me, whatever, 478-521-0856. And many of you have called me, texted, you've emailed Scott at Nowlin, NOWLINWM.com. But feel free to call me or text me. Really, that's the kind of guy I am. I like that personal interaction. So reach out to us. And if you're interested in the t-shirts, the cool thing about that is it's a 100% fully transparent USA supply chain.
Yep.
And Zeke tells his customers, I could take you to shake the hand of every person that had a role in making that t-shirt.
Yeah.
Love that.
Who else can do that?
Nobody. Nobody.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And just like infinite banking, you keep the money within your system. Same with our country.
Yep.
Made in America. You keep it here. You're supporting your local neighbors, and it's so empowering.
Yep.
Okay, I want to just say this in closing. I met what was it, seven
great people.
7 incredible people.
Absolutely.
Present company excluded. I met 7 incredible people. You all know who you were, who were at the meetup. And I know there was about 6 or 7 of you that couldn't make it or fell through the cracks, but I'm really sorry if I couldn't get to everybody. Glenn, brother, I love you. Sorry it didn't work out, but we will be back. I'll do it with my son next time. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And so many people asked about Brent, but he could make this time. I love all of you, but especially the gentleman that I met over the weekend, where it was a coming together of sorts that I haven't felt that kind of energy in a long, long time. We are together and you could feel it. It was palpable in the room. And all those guys are now friends for life. And that's what we create around here. That's what this channel's all about. That's why I love all of you guys. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get out and get some dinner because we're going to catch a plane first thing in the morning. So love you all. And we'll see you again next Tuesday with our brother here, Simon. Thank you so much, God.
Good night. All right. Glad to be here.
Good night.
Thanks for coming out. God bless and good night.
And good night.
Good night.
We're right there. You got it. One more time. Can you do it? Yeah, almost. Almost. Yeah.